This is when I have a topic that I haven't talked about before, you never know what's going to happen. So I wanted to talk this topic tonight. I wanted to talk about freedom and what freedom is and what is the most important freedom. And I am somebody who grew up as an idealist. And in a lot of ways I still am an idealist, but a different kind of an idealist. I grew up and I've always had a strong sense of right and wrong, of justice, social justice, etc. And I always wanted to be able to fight for justice, right? Fight for freedom and justice. And it kind of shows in my two favorite movies. That, yeah, it's almost like being a superhero, right? My two favorite movies, right? My favorite movie of all time, Braveheart. You know Braveheart, right? Freedom! And my other favorite movie is Gladiator, which is another movie about freedom and fighting tyranny and injustice, etc. So what happens in Braveheart, right? Yeah, they're an oppressed people. The guy, his wife gets killed, his people are getting killed, and he's like, you know what? I'm done with this. I want freedom. I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna kill all these Englishmen, and I'll get freedom. And of course, he gets tortured and killed and becomes like a martyr, and eventually the Scots get their freedom. Same thing with Gladiator and other stories. There's a lot of stories, historical or fictional stories, throughout history about this, right? Fighting for our freedom. Even those of us in America, that's our story, right? Our history, our founding fathers. They got tired of being taxed to death and having no representation, so they said, you know what? I want freedom. We're gonna fight for this freedom. We're gonna kill us some Englishmen. Seems like there's a lot of people that want to kill Englishmen over the years, but that being said, so I always felt very strongly with these kind of things, this fighting for freedom, because I always believe that people should be free. People should be free to live and let live, and whatever they're doing, as long as it doesn't harm other people, then they should be free to do that. So that was always my mindset. And I always was ready to fight for that. I mean, even to the point where I got involved in politics, right? I always felt like I needed to know everything, be informed about the history, and be informed about the news, and be informed about this. And I became involved in politics. I joined a political party. I was actually a leader in that political party, fighting for freedom and justice and equality and all that stuff. I was a member of the Libertarian Party, although technically I am, but I don't do any activities like I used to. So this is, this person, this freedom fighter, right? Who, if I was probably in a third world country, I'd probably be fighting somebody for freedom. So I always have this stuff, freedom, in my mind, freedom. And as I got older, I even started to learn about who have become two of my favorite heroes. Two people who are very closely connected in their method. Martin Luther King Jr. and Gandhi, right? Even still, even without violence, they were able to bring change, right? Without violence. So they were able to bring change and some kind of freedom. But as I've progressed in my practice, and as I've gotten deeper and deeper into my insights, I've come to find that these freedoms are lacking, right? And you know why they're lacking? It's very simple. It's because they're impermanent freedoms, right? We can live under a dictator, right? And we can topple that dictator, kill him, and reinstall a new regime and positive and nice people. And what happens? Eventually, maybe the nice people are there for a while, but they go away, and other people come, and they might be nice, or they might be tyrants again. There's no such thing as permanent peace as we dream of, like in that John Lennon song, "Imagine all the people living in harmony." There's no such thing. There never will be any such thing. That's what I've come to find out, and that's been my heartache in a way, because I was that dreamer, I was that idealist. But where I'm at now, I'm at peace with that. That I am not that idealist anymore, and I'll explain why. When you come to know the practice, when you come to learn, and you come to read more of the suttas and listen more to Dhamma, read about what the Buddha said, you come to realize that, as I said, all of these other freedoms are impermanent. Anything that we might grasp onto as freedom, as justice, as this is the way things should be, is ever changing. Whenever we think that we have things perfect, this is our wonderful country, our wonderful government, where everybody's going to live in peace, that's when we know that things will change. But there is freedom that is permanent. And what is that freedom? It's nibbana, or nirvana. And what is that freedom from? It's freedom from a lot of things. When we practice, we are developing fearlessness. What is fearlessness? That's a freedom. You're not fearful. You're not anxious about what might happen in the future. You are developing freedom from the past. What's freedom from the past? Freedom from guilt. Freedom from remorse. Ajahn Brahm says there's no such thing as guilt in Buddhism, and I agree 100%. So we're free from the worries and fears of the future. We're free from the worries and fear of the past as we practice. And in the present moment, there's a freedom and a lightness that is unlike anything that you can experience. When your mind is not torn forward or backwards, when your mind is just there, you start to see this freedom. You start to feel it, and you start to like it. It's like, oh, this is peace. This is freedom. You're developing, slowly but surely, you're developing freedom from the three roots: greed, hatred, and delusion, as you practice. What you're doing when you develop wisdom, you're destroying ignorance or delusion. And the more you destroy ignorance, the more you see things as they truly are, the less your mind goes nuts over things. Like, oh, this should be this way, this should be that way, I should be happy, I should be this. You know, the more you see things as they truly are, the more you accept the way things truly are. There was a saying that I heard. The first time I heard it, I believe it was from Ajahn Brahm. And the saying goes that the Buddha did not change the world. He made peace with the conditions in it. And that was, when I first heard that phrase, it was both an epiphany for me, but also a hard pill to swallow. Because, you know, how many of us, when we grow up, we get into certain professions, we want to change the world, right? We want to make things better. We want to change the world, leave the world a better place, you know, than we found it. And To a certain degree, I think you can do that. To a certain limited degree. There's no doubt in the fact that helping your fellow man is very, very positive, and you can change people's lives. There's no doubt. But what we can't do is change the world permanently for good, or we can't change the world permanently for ill, thankfully. If we could, that would be pretty bad, but it's all impermanent. So as you practice, as part of the more you practice, the more insight you gain, the more you start to renounce things, you start to realize that that's folly, that's silliness, that, well, it depends on what you mean by destroy. 99.9% of the things that we could do to the world would destroy us on the world. It would destroy most life on the world, but the world would recuperate. It might take millions of years, but the world would recuperate. So even that is not permanent. Yes. So the only thing that you can do is make peace with the conditions in the world. And that's a hard thing to do, isn't it? We look on the news. How am I going to make peace with the world going to hell? Especially if you think that's like, you know, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are riding, and it's almost December 21st, and look at all this craziness that's happening in the world. How can I make peace with that? It's hard. It's not easy. I'm not I'm not selling any tonics that'll get rid of it all and you'll be at peace. You know, maybe the pot dealer down the road is saying that he can do that with his product, but I'm not going to say that. So, what is it? That is why people take the drugs a lot, isn't it? An escape, to find peace. They think that they'll find peace in that, but that is also impermanent, because that bliss wears off. And you know what? They say even with the jhanas, when you practice, when you're into the jhanas, even the bliss of the jhanas also wears off. Nothing is permanent. So when we start to practice, when we start to make peace with the world, when we start to develop this freedom, the Buddha said it's a gradual practice. So we don't just wake up one day and we're free. So what else are we trying to be free from? Free from the greed, hatred, delusion, free from fear, free from what was I saying? Guilt and remorse. We're also giving freedom. And those of you who've heard me talk, you've heard me talk this a million times about when the Buddha said that following the 5 precepts, when we start to live a more moral life, when we start to be mindful of what we're doing, and we do more skillful things, we are giving freedom to other beings. Freedom from fear, freedom from animosity. And that's part that when we do metta, that's what we're saying. Where may all beings be free from fear, may all beings be free from animosity. Not only in just saying that and wishing it, but when we practice and we follow like the 5 precepts, and we try to do as much skillful and deeds that are beneficial to ourselves and others, we give that freedom to all beings. You'll notice this. I've noticed this. And when you practice, the more you practice, the more peaceful, the more calm you are, the more beings feel comfortable around you. And you know how you'll notice this? With animals and with children. Adults, there's a lot of things mixed in there. There's a lot of conditioning in the mind that you still will see that they're peaceful around you, but you'll see that children and animals will flock to you. They will say, people will say, "Whoa, wow, my dog is usually not this, not this quiet and peaceful with strangers, or my child is usually not, so happy or inquisitive with strangers. They usually cry or whatever." That is what I've seen as that freedom that the Buddha talked about. People know that you are the type of person that will do skillful actions, and that they don't have to worry about you doing something to hurt them. So that's not only developing freedom for yourself, but also freedom for others. In the Mahayana tradition, the Vajrayana tradition is very, very big on helping others over yourselves. So no matter what, even in the Theravada tradition, we are worried about, or we are practicing for the benefit of ourselves and for others. We always have to remember that. So when we talk freedom, we're not only talking about freedom of our own mind, but helping others to move towards freedom as well in their mind, because they don't have to worry about this, any actions that we might perform. Then there's another quote that I always liked, and again, it's actually from the first time I heard it. I think it's from Ajahn Brahm. If you watch enough of his videos, you hear so many things. But he says, his quote is, "Suffering is asking from the world what it cannot give you." So think about that. Suffering is asking from the world what it cannot give you. The world cannot give you freedom, peace. Not in the way that we want it to, anyway. We attach to things in the world. We want the world to be a certain way. And in just wanting the world to be a certain way, we're fettered in. The Buddha talks about the fetters, eradicating the fetters. When we want that world to be a certain way, that's delusion, that's ignorance, and that locks us down, chains us up, and we're not free. But when we make peace with the world, the fetters start to be destroyed, and we can be free. Free? What is Nibbana, right? Nibbana is the cessation of craving, the cessation of dukkha. We are free from craving and attaching. And because we are free from craving and attaching to things, we accept things as they are. We accept things as they come into our lives. We accept things as they peak. And we accept things as they pass away. Whether that be humans, animals, items, our own breath. We are just there, accepting when it comes, and we accept when it goes. Because we know that is the nature of reality. And that is the ultimate freedom, right? We don't have to have worries anymore. We don't have to have attachments that will cause us suffering. And when we don't have that, and we are totally free from that craving, that attachment, we are free from greed, hatred, and delusion, because we see the Four Noble Truths as they are. That is, in Buddhism, ignorance is not knowing the Four Noble Truths. So when we have wisdom, which is the opposite of ignorance, when we have eradicated all ignorance, we see things as they truly are, we have wisdom about the reality of existence, then there's nothing to be worried about. There's nothing to agitate you. You are totally free outside of this world. Now that's not saying you're in a place. I mean, Nibbana or Nirvana is not a place. It's a state of mind. It's a mental state. It's in your mind. Because what you're doing is you're freeing your mind from all the fetters. There's no more fetters. Your mind is totally free. And then you are at peace. So that is, to me, the ultimate freedom. And as I get older and as I progress in my practice, that is the only freedom that I'm really worried about. I can be arrested today, thrown in jail, convicted of a crime that I never did, and thrown in prison for life. What is a greater freedom or lack of freedom? That I'm locked up or that my mind is locked up? I would say the mind is locked up, right? You could be in that prison physically, but you don't have to be in that prison mentally. So the greater freedom in that regard is being free in your mind instead of being free with your body. So I think that's, at least at this point, that's about the extent of my talk. We can start having any questions or comments. Sometimes as we do the questions and comments, I remember other things or just want to talk about, something that I forgot, that kind of stuff. But so hopefully one of these lifetimes, I could talk about that, but hopefully one of these lifetimes I'll be like William Wallace. If you've ever seen the movie Braveheart, when he screams freedom, I'll be like, it's the same thing a lot what the Buddha said, right? When the words that he said when he was enlightened. Long have I gone through this cycle of birth and death. I will never architect or you'll house builder. You will never build this house again. That's that sense of freedom. You'll never build this house again. I am free. The holy life has been lived. There is nothing more to be done. The victory cry of the Arahant. So that's the victory cry of freedom. And hopefully one of these lifetimes, that's what I'm going to be able to do. We'll see. We'll see how long that takes. Thank you, Delani, for coming. Always good to see you. What quote? The victory cry of the Arahants? Or what the Buddha said? There is nothing... Yeah, the victory cry of the Arahants is haunting to me. I love that. Because that's always what, like, if there's a sutta, you read the suttas, and a lot of times it'll be, this person comes and questions the Buddha, or asks the Buddha a question, or debates the Buddha, and then at the end of the sutta, it's like, this person became a disciple, and then there was no more to be had, and then it goes through that whole victory cry of the Arahants. I love that. So, let's, evil. Being mindful in day-to-day tasks. You mean like, sweeping and going to the bathroom? Well, the Buddha did say to be mindful even while going to the bathroom. We are trying to be mindful at all times. But I have to, you have to know that that's not always going to be possible. This is part of the freedom thing, right? I'll give an example. The last couple days, I've had a lot of feeling of negativity. Feeling almost like maybe a depression. Kind of like tired, not really wanting to do things. Not really even wanting to read like my Dhamma, books anymore. I'm reading right now The Art of Disappearing by Ajahn Brahm. And I was like, today I went to read it. And I was like, or last night I went to read it. I was like, I'm done with this. So even with mindfulness, even with your practice, you're going to have these time periods where, you just have this negativity, and you have this lack of mindfulness, which I have been having a big lack of mindfulness. But the only thing you can do is make peace with that. Ajahn Brahm would say, be kind to your body and mind. Just give metta to it. Love it. It's okay, body. It's okay, mind. You're okay. You can do, if this is what you feel like doing, that's fine. And when I do that, it does make a difference. Because what you're doing is you're destroying negativity. You're switching your mind from the negativity of your current thoughts to positive, to metta, loving friendliness for yourself. And you can't go wrong with that. So that always helps. And so if you have that these days, if you're really trying to be mindful and putting forth effort, that can be very exhausting. And you might have these points where you just, your body and your mind say, screw that. I want to do something. I want to rest. I want to, indulge in video games or movies or TV instead of reading Dhamma. I'm tired of Dhamma. That's fine. Give your body a rest. Be like sonna, right? When instead of overexerting yourself, make sure that you are playing that string at the perfect pitch, at the proper pitch, and not too tight, like really exerting yourself too much and not resting and not giving yourself some peace time, and not too lax, being lazy and not doing anything. So the more, in terms of being mindful in your daily life, the way you really develop that is by practice. Because the more you practice, either walking or sitting, doesn't, both are important. The more you practice, the more mindfulness comes on its own. You'll see that you practice, and then, just sometime in the middle of the day, something will happen and you'll have some thought, and you'll be mindful of that. And you're like, oh, I had this thought because of this condition, because of that condition, you don't even necessarily have to be conscious of it or consciously trying to do it. The more you practice, the more that happens on its own. Or the more your mind is open to allowing you to be mindful, to say, I'm going to put forth effort now to be mindful. So you have to start small and build your way up. That's the only way to do it. And when you do start to become mindful of everyday tasks, that even more so accelerates the mindfulness, because you even more so begin to see why you do the things you do. And the more you're mindful, in the present moment during situations, the easier it is for your mind to come up with solutions or to say the right thing, because you're thinking, you're in the moment, and what you're going to be doing is most likely or more likely to be beneficial to yourself and others, more likely to be skillful. So that is the benefit of that mindfulness. I don't know. I mean, from my limited experience, and you all know I'm certainly not any meditation master, but from my limited experience, I think we have plenty of experience right here and now of noticing the greed, hatred, and ignorance of other people. That's almost like we're almost like PhDs in that, aren't we? Oh, that person this, that person that. What the practice does is to allow you to be at peace with that, to accept that, to say, this person is this way because of these conditions. And when you know that, when you see that, you're at peace with it. You don't have to feel like you're being, like there's injustice, like they wronged you in some way, or like they, that they're harming you in some way, or that it's a personal thing. You loosen that. That's what the meditation practice loosens and destroys. Yeah. And it takes time. The Buddha said over and over again, this is a gradual practice. And it really is a gradual practice. You can go, so long without feeling like, oh, I'm making insights, I'm doing good, I'm progressing, yada, yada, yada. It just, you come to the point where you just know that the practice is beneficial. So you're just going to keep doing it no matter what. Even if you don't get an insight like, oh, I'm getting insights, I'm rocking. I got an insight this week, I got an insight last week, I got an insight the week before that, I'm on good progress. It's like you're charting you have like one of them, what do they call those charts? Towards Nibbana, like at the top corner is Nibbana. I'm going good to chart. No, no. I'm saying that's like the opposite of what you should be doing. That's what we feel like we need to do or we should do. If we don't have insights and we don't feel like it's working, then this is useless. Instead of, but when we do feel like it's working, sometimes you can get into that. Oh, like, yeah, I'm rocking it good. I should be at Nibbana in about maybe in about 3 years and 10 seconds. Yeah, that's when I'm getting to Nibbana. Yeah. They chart their happiness. Happy dance. Marine, I think that question is far beyond my my ability to answer. So I don't think I could answer that. No matter how far you think you are, there's still a long way to go. Still a bunch of lifetimes most likely to go. Now, I've never heard of the white cotton thing. I've heard the term nimitta, but I honestly I can't say that I know the definition right off the top of my head. Hmm. I wonder if Bhante G talks about that in Beyond Mindfulness in Plain English. 'Cause that's his second book after that. After Mindfulness in Plain English, which talks about more advanced meditations and meditative states. I haven't got to read that yet. Read it. And in a lot of ways, I don't like to read about these fancy things like the higher meditators, because it almost like it jinxes you in a way, because you think like, oh, is this that? Is this that? Is this that? What is that? What's that experience? What is this experience? And like people like Ajahn Chah, Bhante G, all the high meditation masters, they'll say, you know what it is? It's a phenomena. Don't get attached to it and just keep watching your breath. No matter what it is, I don't give a crap what it is. Just keep watching your breath, because it's just phenomena anyway. Even if it's some kind of, people have talked about, they've asked me questions about this. What happens when there's like this being that appears while you're meditating? And I'm like, I don't know. I've never had in my meditation practice. I've never had any kind of hallucinations or beings or anything. So in all honesty, that's when it gets to that kind of stuff, it gets well beyond my limit of experience. All I know is that whatever it is, it can be observed. And whatever it is, it's just phenomena. So you just watch it come and watch it go. That's it. That's what the great meditation masters say. Well, most likely, if you would just open your eyes, and the being wouldn't be there anymore. I don't think people are saying that their eyes are wide open and there's these beings in the room like they're being abducted or something, or like it's them night terror things, See, in a lot of ways, I almost like feel like, oh, am I missing out by not having all these things? I was like, ooh, maybe I want to have some like devas or yakas. Yakas are the demons, in the suttas. I want some yakas to appear in my meditation. Dang it, why can't I have any yakas? So in a lot of ways, that's like I just feel like I practice. And I go with my gut, with what feels like is beneficial, with what feels like is working. And I progress. That's the way I feel like it. Yeah, in all honesty, I don't think that I've ever heard of that. Floaters. No, in all honesty, I don't think I've ever seen any anything that I could not attribute to something physical, something of the body. I see. They got like some kind of picture on nimitta, and the picture's this woman meditating, and there's this bright white thing behind her at the tip of her nose. I don't know. Ah, seems like nimitta is connected to the jhanas in some way. That might be why I have not experienced it. Yes. Okay. Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something that I'd like to get to know a little bit. I love how this has turned into a, what kind of crazy meditation experiences have you had? That's a good discussion. No, I like it. That's why we're here to discuss, right? And we were talking about, and it's not really derailing because we're talking about mindfulness and meditation, so. Now, see, they might. I mean, I know at Bhavana they actually do have jhana retreats. I've never been to one. Jhana, for me, has always kind of felt like this thing that's kind of, far ahead or something like that for me. Maybe that's my own ignorance thinking that. Maybe I should go to a jhana retreat. I don't know. But, this is... it is something that Bhante Ji recommends. Now, jhana, not every monk recommends that you even, and the Buddha said you don't necessarily need jhana to get enlightened, but it is important nonetheless. Yes. So maybe I should, the next retreat should be a jhana retreat. We'll see what happens. So, I guess, any comments, questions, anything like that? Yes, I was meditating and a UFO landed in front of my nose. And it tried to beam me up. Yeah, interesting. So okay, I guess unless there's any final comments or questions, we can end. So once again, thank you for making this into a nice discussion, because I can yammer on forever and ever, and that kind of gets boring. So I like it when people participate. You often find that if you go to places and there's like question answers and all of that, like they'll say, anybody have any questions or anybody want to comment, and nobody does. And a lot of times, if you don't, especially if you're new, it's like you don't know to question, and so nobody questions. And then it's funny. Ajahn Brahm said, he goes one time, he goes, of course nobody says they have any questions now, but as soon as I start to go out of the place, then everybody wants to have a private question. So that kind of seems like dealing with people with suffering. You mean like that they're going through physical suffering? Well, JT, I think you and the people who have heard me talk yammer enough. You know that my wife died 7 years ago of cancer, and I was a caregiver to her for a couple years. And emotional problems. Well, even still, emotional, physical, it's the same thing. When you have somebody who is suffering, what does the Buddha say? The Buddha says that you are what you bear alone. There is nobody who can take, just a mother cannot take the suffering of her child away or on herself. Likewise, a son cannot take the suffering of a mother on himself. Unfortunately, there is not much you can do other than to be there and to be as supportive as possible. That's about all you can do. You can try to be an advocate for them as well. Yes, well, when you try to help, oftentimes it does. That's where knowing when and where, with mindfulness, knowing the right thing to do at the right time helps. Because if you're too kind of like pushy and trying to help, you'll get them angry, and that won't help. Trust me, I was a caregiver to my wife for 3 years almost, and physical, emotional, it's really the same root, right? It's the same no matter what, if it's physical or emotional or both. It's the same root. It all comes from the mind. So when somebody is suffering, there's not much you can do. It's the same thing when you go to a funeral, right? People hate going to funerals, partly because they don't know what to say. They think that they're supposed to say all these grand words. The only thing you can say is, my condolences, if you need anything, I'm here for you. That's it. That's the only thing you need to, and that's what I tell people. Somebody, I guess somebody who's experienced with death like me, not only my wife, but I've been to more funerals in 34 years than most people, I'm sure. So the only thing you can do is say, my condolences. If there's anything that you need, I'm here. You can't take away their pain. You can't solve anything for them. The only thing you can do is to be there. Ajahn Brahm said, I think he said it was Voltaire who, it's very Ajahn Brahm-ful talk today, isn't it? But he says, I'm pretty sure he said it was from Voltaire, and there's the 3 questions, right? The 3 questions. First question is, what is the most important time? Most important time is now. Who is the most important person? Most important person is the person in front of you. And what is the most important thing to do? The most important thing to do is care. Those are the 3 questions. And that is one of those things that really has always stuck with me. Because the first time I heard it, I was like, yeah, wow, exactly. It's like, whoa. Like Voltaire must have been a Buddhist. It's like that's so. It's so true. So the most important time is now, the present moment. The most important person is the person in front of you, and the most important thing to do is to care. So when you're dealing with somebody who is going through that suffering, I think those 3 questions are very important to remember, so that you know the right thing to do. Being in mindfulness, caring, it's because Buddhism goes against the stream, right? That's what the Buddha said. It goes against the stream, and that's why I've heard it said that the Buddhist monk is the ultimate rebel. Which I was like, ooh, well, that would be kind of cool. If I become a monk, I can say I'm the ultimate rebel. But my ego likes that one, right? Because the Buddhist monk goes against the stream. I've always gone against the stream my whole life. So it's kind of like, fitting. So when I heard the Buddhist monk is the ultimate rebel, I was like, oh yeah, I'm a rebel. Very true. So, thank you everybody. It's a very, very good talk and discussion today. I always enjoy when people can comment and discuss instead of listening to me yap. So, I guess it's just about a minute or 2 over time, and we will end there.